whatever it is, there's a certain mindset that you need to have if you want to experience growth. That's what I started to realize. I started to realize it was my mind. You know what I mean? And I started to realize, because you think about the mindset, you kind of alluded to it a little bit earlier. The mindset is basically, it's your beliefs, it's your attitudes, it's the way you see the world, and it's the way you see yourself. Bigger than anything else, yes, it's the way you see the world, but I think the most important thing is it's the way you see yourself. And I had to realize that I don't see myself correctly.
Welcome to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by my man, Audley Stevenson, the Odd Man.
Greetings and salutations. Welcome to the Audacious Living Podcast, where we strive and empower our listeners to live their best audacious lives ever. It's always a pleasure to have you here joining us on the podcast, and I thank you for taking the time out of your schedule to join us and explore new possibilities of audacious living with us. Now I'm based out of Toronto, Canada, and for the last little while, the weather has been all over the place. It's that time of year where we're transitioning from one season to the next. So sometimes it's sunny and it's rainy, and then, it's cloudy. And, we even saw a little bit of snow the other day as winter is fighting to hold on. Earlier today, when I was just out for a walk, we got this huge wind gust. And while I was out, I saw this one tree that, was almost unaffected by the winds. I mean, certainly the branches were kind of going back and forth, and whatever leaves that were there were holding on. They were swaying in the wind as well, but the tree itself was firm. And I very much equate this to the audacious pathway that we take in our own lives. Just like the way that tree stood firm and tall and unwavering, in the face of these strong winds, our journey to audacious living requires also a firm foundation and that unwavering commitment to our values and purpose. In today's episode, we explore the transformative power of personal development and growth with the very, very insightful Larry Davis. Now, Larry is a great guy. I had a lot of fun talking to him. He's a personal development coach and a mentor who's dedicated his life to helping individuals unlock their potential. He's got certainly his own story with a background in overcoming personal challenges and transformative growth. Larry brings a unique perspective to the conversation when it comes to, mindset in self-improvement. Larry's journey from personal struggles to a mindset of growth and improvement really makes him the perfect guest for today's episode. And again, I'm really glad that you're here. You'll certainly will enjoy the things that Larry has to share. Again, he touches on self-discovery, on empowerment, and they certainly align perfectly with our goal here on the podcast of Audacious Living. So without any further ado, here's my conversation with Larry. Enjoy. Hey, Larry, thank you for joining me here today on the Audacious Living Podcast. I appreciate making the time like this, man. Thanks for being here.
Hey, man, thanks for having me, man. I'm honored and looking forward to having a great discussion with you, man.
Same here. I was when that connection was first made, I was just looking over your material and stuff, and I love the work that you're doing, particularly around helping people sort of get to that better place by the improvement of their mindset, right? And I think that's for a lot of people. They don't necessarily key in on that right away as an area of improvement. Like they sort of think, like, if I want to get better, I've got to maybe go to the gym first and work out and whatever. And not that those things are important, but there's still a mindset necessary to even be successful, say in the gym. And that would be, and I apply for all aspects of our lives. The way we think, the way we approach things, our viewpoint all needs to be a certain way to have that level of success. And so maybe as a starting point, I'll sort of get you to talk about the work you do and how you landed in the space of personal development and growth.
Well, man, I would say how I landed here was basically from my own failures, my own trauma and things like that. That's kind of how I landed here. just, going through things that I went through in life and just coming to a point where I realized that, man, something has to change. I got to do better. I just got to do better. I got to live life in a way that I'm not harming myself and I'm not harming other people around me.
Right.
But the thing about it was I had a mind to want to live a better life. I had a mind to want to be a better person, be a better husband, a better father to my kids. I wanted that, and I had the drive to do that. I just didn't know how. I didn't have any background for that. I didn't have any context for how to improve in those areas. And so I think that, for me, just through a bunch of trial and error, I ended up just, kind of doing a lot of introspection, a lot of thinking, and a lot of reading and stuff like that to try to find myself.
Right.
And in that process, I found myself really diving into certain books and things like that. I started reading books probably like 10 years ago. Okay. Prior to that, I didn't read at all. Like, I didn't read at all. Prior to 10 years ago, I didn't read a coloring book. Right. You know what I mean? But I realized that was a mistake, but it was a mistake that I wasn't aware of. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think a lot of people, they're not even aware of what they need to do. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of people want to do better. They're just not aware, or they don't have the mentors in their life. And that was kind of my thing. I didn't have a mentor in my life to kind of show me, okay, you need to do this, or you need to read this book, or you need to listen to this video, or you need to go to this event, or whatever the case may be, or you need to think like this. I didn't have that mentor for me. And so once I discovered, how to improve myself, I wanted to be that for somebody else because I didn't have that myself. And so that's kind of how I landed on just this personal development stuff. It was just, first of all, I wanted to get myself better. And then I realized that I need to help other people because there's a lot of people that just don't know where to go. So that's kind of how it happened for me.
What I'm curious about was the, so oftentimes when people get to that point where like, I've got to change, I've got to do better, I've got to be different. Oftentimes there's a spark or there's an impetus that makes it happen. Was there one for you, or is it just happened?
No, it was a couple of things. One thing for me was I went through a divorce. So that was one of the things for me, just going through that divorce, realizing that, it probably didn't have to be this way, but it was just, I wasn't developed. I wasn't developed as a man, and I definitely wasn't developed as a husband. So I think that was one of the biggest things, that along with just being in a place where I was in debt and broke and stuff like that, not understanding how to manage my money and things like that. And so I think those were kind of the two biggest things that, made me kind of snap into reality and say, man, I got to do something better. And if I don't do something better, I'm gonna, always have these failures. You know what I mean? And so that was the thing for me, I would say.
And at that time, did you identify the language around mindset? Did you know what it was yet?
No, I didn't. I did not know what it was yet. It wasn't until I started really studying and reading. For me, the first thing I started studying was the Bible. So I should say that. For me, that was the first thing I started studying. And once I started studying that, that's when I started realizing that, you know what, I'm not seeing things correctly, and I don't have the right perspective on things that are happening, right? And so that's when and so the Bible helped me realize that. And then I went from the Bible to reading other books, and just reading all those other books, I started to understand that, whether we're trying to improve in our careers or our finances or our relationships, whatever it is, there's a certain mindset that you need to have if you want to experience growth. That's what I started to realize. I started to realize it was my mind. You know what I mean? And I started to realize, because you think about the mindset, you kind of alluded to it a little bit earlier. The mindset is basically, it's your beliefs, it's your attitudes, it's the way you see the world, and it's the way you see yourself. Bigger than anything else, yes, it's the way you see the world, but I think the most important thing is it's the way you see yourself. And I had to realize that I don't see myself correctly. I'm not really valuing myself. I'm not really understanding what I have to bring to the table. I'm not really understanding my true gifts and my talents and my skills. That's what the mindset is really understanding who you are. That way you can be all you can be, and you can be a better person to yourself and then those around you.
You know, and I find really interesting, and I appreciate that explanation. What I find really, really interesting is you can go through your entire life and be completely into the dark and all the things that you just identified, and not even know. And I'm sure, and maybe this is your experience. You kind of get to the other side, and you're like, where have I been? Like, who was I? What did I not see? How could I not see it? I mean, because it becomes that plainly obvious to you. Was that an experience that you had?
It was. It really was. I remember I started listening to podcasts when I just started, the playing not necessarily a video podcast, but I'm talking about just Apple Podcasts, on your pocket in your car. When I discovered podcasts and I was listening to these podcasts and I was like, man, where have I been? Like people have been doing these podcasts. I should have been listening to these. Man, these things are so and there's podcasts for everything. There's podcasts for business, relationships, just everything, man. And I was like, man, where have I been? These people, and I started listening to podcasts, and you hear people say, yeah, I've been doing this podcast for 15 years. I'm like, man, I didn't know anything about that. And, so now, like, that's what I'm listening to in my car. I'm not necessarily listening to music on my way to the grocery store or wherever, or traveling. I'm listening to podcasts. You know what I mean? And so that's until my wife gets tired of hearing it, and then she, put on some music or something. I want to hear this, but funny. So for me, it was podcasts. It was podcasts, books too. Books. I started reading books, and I realized, man, I don't know why I haven't been reading, because the books allow me to just I think a book, it's for one, it's well put together, it's researched, it's all of these things, and so people just don't put a book together. So that information in that book is 9 times out of 10 is golden. Now I know people can put anything in a book, but for the most part, the things that are in a book are guaranteed things that'll help you. You know what I mean? So for me, I realized, man, I don't know where I've been. I don't know why I've never listened to these podcasts or read these books. But once I realized that, I started thinking about, what? One reason is because I just didn't have anybody telling me this is what you need to do. I didn't have anybody referring different books to me or saying, hey man, you need to listen to this episode. It's talking about this, this, and this. And so that's what it was for me.
Yeah. No, interesting. And it's true. It opens up a world that, again, like where have I been? Why didn't I not know this before? And so that's it's a fascinating journey to go through. And so you touched on the Bible as being one of the books that you delved into, and so within your work, your faith is a big part of what you do. I know you identify as a Christian life coach. How does your faith influence the work that you do in the life coaching work you do with individuals?
Man, it influences a lot, because I think that we are made by, our creator. And I think he made us all for a purpose, and we all have a purpose, and everybody's purpose may be different. Some may be the same, but we all have a purpose. And that's the first thing that I try to get people to understand. And the people that I work with, I try to get them to understand that, whether you believe it or not, you were created for a purpose. You were designed to do something specifically. And the world, your family are counting on you to be who you are. They're not counting on you to do something that you're not designed to do. They're counting on you to be who you are. So you don't have to worry about trying to be something that you're not, because what we really need is for you to show up as you. You know what I mean? And so that's how it informs it, because I believe that we all have a purpose, and God gives us a purpose. And the only way that you can discover that purpose and tap into that purpose is if you understand that you need to develop yourself, and you need to grow, and you need to, change your mindset about how you view things. And so that's kind of how it informs, what I do.
Yep, yep. It's it's interesting when you reference the Bible and as a place of learning. I mean, in the Bible, there's lots of flawed individuals. A lot of individuals that had the wrong mindset, individuals that failed, individuals that had their own selves to blame for those situations. So I think it's a really interesting place to turn because those are real life examples of people that went through it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, man. And that's the point, man, is that, because it even says in scripture that all of these examples that are written in the Bible are for you to learn from them, or for you to grow, and for you to obtain wisdom from these stories. And so you can use these stories as a guide for your life, and as a guide for how you should act in different situations of your life. And it also lets you know that, hey man, if you make a mistake and if you fail, then you can be redeemed, you can be forgiven, you can recuperate. You know what I mean? And I think that was my problem before, in the past. I think that what I was doing was, I would make a mistake, and instead of having the right mindset to know that, you know what, it's just a mistake and there was something I was supposed to learn from it. Yes. Instead of doing that, I was making things even worse. I was digging myself in a deeper hole because of the way I was like, oh man, I messed up, and now I got to do this, and this to fix it, and all these type of things. And I was just going into a deeper hole. You know what I mean? Instead of having, and this is why I talk about mindset, is because when you have the right mindset, a mindset of growth, you understand that mistakes happen, and you're supposed to take those things that happen and evaluate them and say, okay, what was I supposed to learn from this?
Right.
What was I supposed to get out of this? How is this supposed to make me a better person? And then how is this going to inform what I do next? That's what it's all about. And the only way you can do that is if you have the right mindset. Because if you don't have the right mindset, you're going to believe that whatever happened to you, you can't get better. Some people think, oh man, this is just the amount of money I make, and I just can't make no more. Right. That's a mindset thing. That's a poverty mindset, thinking that, oh man, millionaire status and having this type of money and living this type of life or whatever is for them. I didn't come up like that, and I wasn't raised like that. That's having a fixed mindset, thinking that because I was born broke, I gotta die broke. That's not the case. You can change. What I mean? And so when you have a growth mindset, you can believe that your qualities can be developed. You can believe that you can grow your money. You know what I'm saying? So that's the difference in the mindset, and you know what I'm saying? So that's what I understand now, and that's what I try to help the people that I work with to understand. It's all about that mindset.
And what I love about the mindset, because really essentially it's those internal conversations that we have, Larry, with ourselves, right? And I oftentimes encourage people to question things, right? Why? If this is a certain place, why is that? How did this come to be, and how can it change? Because anything or any parts of our situation can be altered, adjusted, or changed. But that doesn't happen until we make that conscious decision to do so. And so, and I think one of those ways is to question things, right? It doesn't have to be in a forceful, rebellious nature, but the simple 3-letter word question, why? And that can answer so many things for us.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Because when you start asking why, you are acknowledging that there must be another way. There must be another way.
Yeah.
And I think the one mistake that people make is people put themselves in these either or situations. Either I got money or I don't. Either I'm good at relationships or I'm not.
Right.
Either I got a nice, good career or I don't. And they put themselves in these, either people say stuff like this. Okay, either I'm gonna hustle and make money, or I'm gonna keep my family. Like, because you can't build a business or whatever and keep your family and all these different things. Or you can't, you know what I'm saying? Like, or you can't be a good father if you miss one game, or like all these things.
Yeah.
Right. And so people put themselves in these either or situations. But I'm here to tell you, man, what about a third option? What about, like you said, well, why?
Why not?
Is there another option? Is there something else that I can do? Let me step back and just put everything on the table. What else can there be? There's got to be more. And that's the thing. I think people need to understand that you need to realize that there's always more. There's always more.
I love it.
You just got to tap into that.
I love that. It's absolutely always more. There's always something that can be done. And that is a particularly important message for individuals who are, some people just get in it, Larry. People they're just in it deep, and they're like, how do I get out of this? And there's always more that can be done. I think though, what's really key is being able to understand and get to that place where you can get that more is sort of calming your mind down a little bit, because when you're in that like panicky mode and you're feeling like you're fighting for survival, and you see people have the attitude like, I gotta get it because it's all I got, and I gotta do, like, that kind of attitude, you're not going to be able to sort of see things clearly, right? If you see the world as a constant fight and struggle, that's what you're going to see in front of you. And I don't want to minimize or suggest that you shouldn't fight for what you want. I'm not saying that at all. But the way you view things, if you view it as a fight and a battle, it's going to be that much harder for you, as opposed to, okay, this challenge is in front of me. How do I circumvent it? How do I get through it? How do I get past it? Because on the other side, that's where all the greatness lies.
Yeah, I think one way to kind of combat that, one way to kind of rectify that is slowing things down and develop some routines in your life. Okay. Like, for instance, for me, routines are very important for me, especially the number one routine for me is my morning routine. My morning routine, it consists of a few different things. But my morning routine, it consists of, prayer, and then some reading, some meditation. I just started journaling, just started it. So I'm not, I'm still trying to figure that out. But hey, man, if you just write anything down, like, man, I'm here. I feel whatever. Write down what you feel, or today I'm hoping it'll be a good day, or whatever. But things like that. But definitely prayer, meditation. And just sitting there reflecting and thinking about, okay, what's going on? What would you like? How would you like to feel? What would you like to see? What are your plans for your life? Because I think if you can plan, first of all, if you can just plan your day, you got to start there. You're trying to plan your whole life and you can't even plan your day. Plan your day, because if you don't plan your day, things are just happening to you and you're not happening to it. You don't even know where you're going. Things that are just flying at you because you don't have no structure. So you got to have a structure and say, now I understand life is life, and sometimes there are going to be unexpected things. I get that. But what I'm saying is, for the most part, you need to be in control of your day. And I think that really starts in the morning. And so, and the reason why I'm saying all this is because I think that you have to go back. It's all about habits. See, people are trying to do things that are this one big event, right. But life is not about one big event. It's about a bunch of little bitty things that culminates into a one big event. Okay. And so if you can just roll all of that back and just say, hey, okay, how I'm going to plan my day, and you can plan your day and have your day structured, then you can start to structure your life. And once you start to structure your life, then you can see, okay, now you can get out of the rat race. You can get out of the whole thing about people telling you what to do. And see, that's my biggest thing too. I really, really hate everybody telling me what to do. Like the world. I mean, I'm not talking about if I have a boss or
right.
Yeah, I'm not talking about being accountable to somebody or something like that. I'm talking about just society, the world, social media. Yes. Having all these voices telling me what I should be doing. That's what people get discouraged, and that's what people get frustrated, is because they got all these voices in the world telling them what they should do, who they should be, what kind of man they should be, what kind of father they should be, all these type of things. You're focusing on all those things because you haven't structured your own life and
we are.
Said, who am I?
Right.
And what am I going to do?
That's right. No, you have no clue who you are, and that's, I remember once I was I just, it just so happened I was with a friend of mine. We were sitting in a car, and it was a windy day, and we were just talking, shooting the breeze. He and I were just two longtime buddies, and we started on this conversation about the importance of like kind of knowing who you are. It just so happened there was a windy day. It was a windy day, and there was a tree in front of us, and next to that tree was a post. Well, the wind was blowing, and this tree was going back and forth, but the post itself was unmoved. Like Larry, it was an epiphany in that moment. I look at that as a living example of what we're talking about. This post isn't moving because it's firm in the ground. It knows exactly where it's planted, and nothing is going to shake it. Whereas this tree was just flapping all over the place. And that's exactly what happens to us, right? Where we're not planted in who we are, we're not firm, we're not established, we're susceptible to anything that comes our way. So one day we're going here, then we're pulled the other way, and it's constant back and forth. So there is some value in taking that time and establishing yourself. So my question to you, Larry, is what are some of the things that people can do to establish themselves?
Um, like I said, I think the first thing is do some self reflection, find out. Okay, do some self reflection, some introspection, and you need to try to find out. Okay, what am I supposed to be doing? What am I supposed to be doing? Why am I here? What is my purpose? What is my purpose? And once you find out what your purpose is, that will inform the things that you're supposed to be doing, right? So you find out what your purpose, and then from there, okay, based on my purpose, uh, I need to come up with some things that I value. Now, some people already kind of know what they value, but they just don't have it. They either don't have it written down or they don't really draw upon those values. And so once you know what your purpose is, you write down some things that okay, I value this. I value family, or I value marriage, or I value wealth, or whatever it is that you value. I value vacations, or whatever the things that you value. I value. You can say I value generosity or integrity or whatever the things you value. Once you find out and you have those things, okay, I value these things. Based on the things that I value, this now tells me what I will say yes to and what I will say no to.
Right.
And it'll come just like that. Like a lot of people spend a lot of time in their minds, and they have a lot of anxiety going back and forth with people and going back and forth with situations. And they're like, man, I don't know if I should do this. And man, they want me to do this, but I don't know. You going back and forth and spinning up your wheels. But if you just knew what you valued, you can easily say, oh, I don't do that because I don't do that because of I value this. Or
Right.
yes, I'll do that because that's what I value. That's right up my alley. Like that will cut all that out. You won't be in all this turmoil trying to figure out what you're going to do every day. And I think also that will make your day-to-day decisions just that, seamless. When you just know this is what I stand up on, this is what I value, and you can make decisions pretty quick, just like that. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I would say. Just find out who you are, what your purpose is, and then come up with a set of values. And you already know, and you're not creating values that out of like you ain't got to Google them. You know what your values are. You just got to write them down, and you got to believe them for yourself, so you can live through those values.
Got you. No, I think that's a good one. Just respect to knowing, being clear on who you are, and you're absolutely right. It does make your decisions that much easier. You're not as easily distracted, like we talked about with a tree. You're not, pulled from one side to the next because, just quite frankly, I don't do like, for example, I don't drink alcohol. Well, I'm not tempted to go out to the bar and hang out at night because I don't drink. Why am I going there? Right? That kind of stuff. And so I think when you can do that work, because there's some work needed, right? So when you do that work to be clear on who you are and be firm and established on who you are and what you're about, the decisions and things that you do, the people that you affiliate, the goals that you set, the dreams that you have, they're all different now, and they're very, very clear.
Yeah, you said something, man. You because when what you stand on, what you value, and all that, like you won't be getting caught up in all these harmful relationships. And I'm not necessarily talking about romantic relationships, although that's a part of it, but not just romantic relationships, business relationships. You know, sometimes you're getting caught up in all these things and being hurt by other people. But if you knew who you were, you would have never associated yourself with that person anyway. And so it's once you understand what you value, it's easy to hey let that person keep going. Or if that person tries to befriend you, you be friendly and stuff like that. But you say
Yeah.
hey hey man, I see you. It's cool. Have a nice day. You know what I mean? You know what to do. You can start to use your discernment and know that hey, this is not a person that I need to spend the majority of my time with, or this is a person that I need to invest in and I need to pour into and let them pour into me. So you'll start to understand just all those things. And so this covers everything, relationships,
Mm.
whatever. You know what I mean? Business deals, whatever.
Yep,
You
yep,
know?
yep. And I think what it also does, it also establishes a way for you to live your life, right? And it almost lays a blueprint for you once you know what you're about and what you want to be and who you want to stay, who you want to be, right? Because if you know who you want to be, then you have a better idea of the things that you need to do, and you can plan that out, and that becomes how you live your life. It can help form your habits. There's all sorts of ripple effects that it has, what we're talking about here.
Oh yeah, man. Like one thing that I always get complimented on by the people that are closest to me, close family and friends.
Uh-huh.
They all admire my convictions. You know what I mean? They admire my convictions, and they say, "Man, you say what when you say something, you mean it. When you're passionate about certain things that you're passionate about, can't nobody knock you off of it. Like if you say this is what you're gonna do, you're gonna do it.
Right.
And so my closest friends and family, they really admire um, my conviction about the things that I believe. And because I believe that those things are what helps me live the life that I want to live on my terms. And I'm not, swayed by society, or I'm not swayed by anybody's politics or anything like that, or I'm not even swayed by religion. Even though I'm a faith-based man, I love God, but God and religion is two different things. And so by my convictions allow me to not get caught up in certain religious type of stuff that you're doing just to placate somebody else. You know what I mean? And so yeah, it's just really important to me to stand on what you stand on. And I think the only way you can do that is if you got to have the right mindset to know who you are and what you're supposed to be doing.
How does that help you become a better parent? Have the right mindset.
Uh, I think it helps me become a better parent in the fact that uh, I know my mindset is all about growth and improvement, right? And so it helps me to just be the example of what I want my sons to be. I want them to understand that, hey man, life is about improvement. Life is about getting better. It's not about being stuck in any situation that you find yourself in. It's just all about just improving and getting better. And basically, it's not even what I teach my sons things, but it's not even what I teach them. I think my biggest lesson for them is who I am, because they're gonna watch me more than anything. They're gonna watch me
Mm.
more than they listen to me. And so my biggest thing is it helps me to be who I am, and I'm a person living, the life that I'm supposed to be living with integrity and with authenticity to myself. You know, it allows them to see that and just exude that. And for me, I model the way for them versus just telling them you should be like this. And so that's how it helps me. It helps me to model the man that I want to be.
I'm a father myself, so I can relate on so many levels. And I think um when I sort of came to the realization that I was always being watched, right? um I was like, oh wait, someone's truly like studying my game plan and watching me wholeheartedly and 100%. It's sort of when that realization sort of came to me, and why I recognized that I needed to be clear and defined and principled and have those convictions that you talked about, right? Because without them, because remember, and I think sometimes parents sometimes forget that we're molding the next adults, right? We're molding our children to become adults to do the things that we're doing now. And so, uh, um, yeah, when you sort of bear that in mind, it does sort of frame things better for you, I think.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Um, because you know, yeah, we all want our kids to be to be a certain way. We want them to grow up to to be good functioning adults. But you got to think about who you are. Like, well, are you a good functioning adult? You know what I mean? Um, because they can smell it a mile away that if you try to tell them to be something that you're not, you know what I mean? Then it's all talk. But at the end of the day, it's also, I let them know, hey, I'm not perfect either. I let my kids know I'm not perfect. And I'll also let them know, I'll like if I say something to them that's wrong, or if I do something that's wrong, I apologize to them. I say, hey man, I'm sorry. I got two boys, but I tell them, hey man, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that, or I got that wrong, or I should have did this or whatever. Like, I messed that up, man, and I'm sorry. And I ask them, how you feel about that? And they be like, it's all right, it's cool, it's cool. I be like, no, how you feel though? How you feel about what I said or did? Well, it made me sad. I said, okay, well, that's why I'm telling you, I'm sorry. I didn't want to. I wasn't trying to, get you upset or make you sad. And so, yeah, I just try to be real and authentic and let them know, hey, man, I make mistakes, and don't be afraid to make mistakes. And I think the biggest thing that probably like for our generation, um, uh, is the biggest mistake that parents made, and and again, I'm not condemning anybody. I'm just pointing this out.
Yep.
I think the biggest mistake that our parents' generation made is not showing your wounds, not showing that you got something wrong. Like they hid that stuff. They hid what they got wrong. They hid certain things. They might have hid that they could have marital problems or whatever. And I'm not saying that you should tell your kids all your marital problems, but I'm just saying if you hide certain things from them, and then when they get older and they start to having problems, they think they're crazy now because they were like, wait a minute, daddy ain't never had this problem, but you just don't know daddy had that same problem and even more. But you
Yeah.
didn't never show them that you had that problem. You was always, I'm just gonna stand tough. And now they going crazy thinking that their life is all messed up
Right.
because you think that you doing something different than your daddy did. But no, your daddy had the same problem. So I just think that that's what I try to do now is I try to let them know, man, hey, this is real. This is what I struggle with, and I'm just a man. I'm trying to, and every day I'm trying to have the right mindset, and I'm trying to grow and improve every day. That's all I can do.
There's so much power in demonstrating vulnerability, right? And just being real, as you said, being real about who you are, what's happening to you, and how you feel about it, right? I think one of the most important things we can do as parents is to let our children know that throughout all the challenges, throughout all what's taken place, there's still an opportunity tomorrow to get better, right? It doesn't, life doesn't just stop at the first time you mess up, right? There's opportunities to grow beyond what you did. There's opportunities to maybe fix what you messed up. But that may not always be the case, but still, the opportunity itself does exist. And I think when we can show that to our kids and keeping it real, as you said, I think we're teaching them a few things about themselves.
Absolutely. Because here's the thing, man. They're looking at you, especially boys, especially boys. Now, girls too probably do this too, but definitely a boy and his father. That boy is looking at you to find out who he is.
Mm.
You know what I mean? And so you want to be able to be real and just kind of show them, what's real.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. Help me, Larry, help me understand your transition from being that guy that didn't read a book and wasn't trying to develop and get better to not only getting better themselves, but becoming a coach himself, a speaker, and a podcaster. What was that transition like? Is that where you saw yourself going?
Not at all, man. I didn't see myself doing that at all. I think for me, if I can take it back, I always had drive to be the best that I can be. I just didn't know how. Didn't know I didn't know how, and like I said, I didn't have the mentors in my life to show me how, to guide me. And I also didn't have the mentors in my life that modeled it, that modeled what I was looking for.
Right.
I didn't have any good things that I wanted to pattern myself after, or good examples that I wanted to pattern myself after. So so for me, once I realized what I needed to do and I needed to learn and grow in all those things, uh, I was just trying to be a better me. That's all I was trying to do,
Right.
because I wanted to show up. Because I care about people. I care about other people. And not just the people, just in my life, but just my community and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I really care, and I just understood that, okay, I just need to be better for myself so that I can, leave things better than I found them, so that I can have an impact or an influence or wherever I go. You know what I'm saying? And so I started to realize that, and then so I said, okay, I started seeing, I think I've always had this, but I started seeing, okay, not necessarily what's all wrong in the world, but I started
Mhm.
seeing where things can be improved.
Mm.
Where, man, this situation could go a whole lot better if he would just think this way,
Right.
or if
Right.
she would just think this way. I started seeing that, and when I started seeing that, I started thinking about, okay, well, this is what I'm learning. And also, when I really started learning the things that I was learning, I was saying, man, somebody else needs to know this. Like somebody, it was burning. It was like a burning thing in me. And
Yeah.
I think what it was for me is I I feel myself so much, and I don't know where this comes from. I don't know where this comes from. As far as when I lock in on something, I lock in, and
Mm.
so I was pouring so much into myself that the overflow had to go somewhere.
Yes. Yeah.
So some of it I can't explain. I can just basically say, man, that overflow got to go somewhere, and so
Yes.
that overflow got to go to somebody else, and that's kind of how I started to make that transition to sharing what I was learning with.
You've been listening to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by
So that's kind of the transition.
Nice, nice, nice. And I like the way you described it as an overflow, right? Because that's what it is. That means you've got abundance to give and offer other people and help others in the same way. Because one of the things that happens, Larry, is it's almost like this contagious thing where you get there like, oh my gosh, I got to let other people know. I got to help other people. I got to show other people the way. And it does get a bit contagious, I would imagine, which is really nice. This has been a fabulous chat. I really, really love it. And I'd be remiss if we didn't touch on the fact that you're a podcaster as well. So I got to give you an opportunity to give your podcast a plug and give a shout out. Because I know how hard you're working to do this thing. And so I want to make sure that people hear about you and your podcast.
Absolutely, man. My podcast is called Growth State of Mind, and you can find it's on YouTube. If you just go to YouTube and Growth State of Mind, you can find it on YouTube. Also, it's in audio format on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all those different channels. You can get it there. But again, it's called Growth State of Mind, and it's all about growth and development and mindset stuff. And there's new episodes every Monday. And so just go check it out.
Awesome. Well, Larry, this has been first off a really awesome chat, and I appreciate you helping our listeners understand the importance of having that growth state of mind. And we also touched on self-awareness and parenting and even living a purposeful life. These are all things that matter to who we are and feed into who we are and can make a difference to those around us. So I appreciate you for the work that you did for yourself, and congratulate you. And again, thank you for being here, man. It's a pretty awesome chat.
Oh man, I appreciate it, man. I had so much fun, man. I really appreciate it.
For our listeners that want to learn more about catch up with your work, the growth state of mind, where is anything else you want to plug or make people aware of?
Yeah, man. If you want to just chat with me, man, find out some more things that I got going on, man, you can just go to my Instagram. Instagram is I am LA Davis, and you can just go there and you can access the podcast from there. I got a 7-day devotional. You can get it right there. And yeah, man, just go to Instagram at I am LA Davis and DM me, chat with me, and we can connect.
Very nice. Very nice. Larry, this has been a great chat. Thank you for the time. Take care and all the best, my friend.
Absolutely, man. Appreciate it.
Through Larry's story, we are reminded that true growth and transformation begin with self-reflection and a commitment to living authentically. By embracing our values and purpose, we can navigate life's challenges with resilience and purpose, ultimately leading to a more fulfilling and audacious life and stay as firm as that tree in the wind. If Larry's message resonated with you and you want to explore further about personal development, how personal development can transform your life, I encourage you to reach out to him directly. We'll make sure his contact details are in the show notes. Thank you for tuning in to the Audacious Living Podcast. Your support and engagement are what drive us to continue to bring empowering conversations like this one. If you've enjoyed today's episode, please follow, hit the subscribe button, share, give it a rating. Anything you can do will help us grow this platform. We so appreciate it. Until next time, stay safe, be kind, show love to one another, and be audacious.
You've been listening to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by